There's a very simple term that I use. I got the wind knocked out of me. Wow, okay. So August 4th, actually, I wake up really early, so I'm up at 6 in the morning. I have my coffee, I have my smoke outside, and I just relax, plan for the day. So that day, I went to my project, I visited my site, and then I told my driver to come pick me up, and we were going to check on a classic car, funny enough. And I went, and I had the money with me to buy a classic car. It was a very good deal. I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna buy it. I want it to be my project car to keep my mind off things in Lebanon. I'll work on it very slowly and have fun. So we went. It was a small ride, هيك drive. كزدرنا رحنا, we saw the cars, not for sale. He's like, there's a guy in Junior that has them. So we were almost there, and I'm like, you know what? Let me go to the office. خلاص, I don't wanna get anything now. So we went to the office. When I got to the office, the migraine hit. I had a really bad headache, and I'm lucky I was at home. Because usually I stay in the office till 8 p.m., 9 p.m. And if I was in the office when it happened, I probably wouldn't be here. Fortunately, I was at home. I took 2 Panadols, and I'm like, my migraine is killing me. I'm just gonna go to sleep a bit, and everything's fine. So I went to sleep. 6 o'clock, my alarm rings, and I get up, put my alarm off, and then I'm just sitting in bed, and I'm like looking around. My son's in his room playing, and then first one was just, I saw dust. There was no explosion, and then the explosion happened. And when the explosion happened, everything rocked. So I'm like, whoa. I saw my son in the hallway with the nanny, and he's like, Daddy, someone break the glass. He's 3. So I'm like, okay, I ran, I saw my father-in-law standing. So I looked at the couch where they sit usually, and there's glass all over the couch. So I'm like, what happened? And he's like, basically he was eating ka'ak, because he loves ka'ak, the small ones. He dropped it on the floor, picked it up and wanted to eat it. So my father-in-law followed him, and the blast happened. So it was lucky that he dropped the ka'ak. My wife was driving towards Ashrafiyye when the blast on the bridge. When the blast happened, she found herself backwards on the bottom road, so the car went down. She doesn't remember herself going down. She just, when the blast happened, she closed her eyes, she woke up, she was down on the road. So she just turned and drove, continued driving. She walked in, I looked at her, are you okay? She's fine, and she's shaking. She took our son, and I went alone to the hospital. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law was in Ashrafiyye when it happened. So she has a broken shoulder, she had to do surgery, she had a broken hip, she has a broken elbow, she has a torn tendon in her wrist, she has broken vertebrae, and she has been bedridden since the blast till today. She's still in a hospital bed at home. So I went to the emergency, and I saw what I saw, and I do not wish this on my worst enemy, seeing what I saw in the hospital. It was just really surreal to see what was going on, and to see the death, and to see death in front of me that frequently. You know, it was just, they were just passing in front of me. And what's worse is seeing the resuscitation, let alone seeing dead people, which is daunting. People being resuscitated and not being responsive. That's what tore me. That's what broke me. You know, this could have been me. This could have been anyone. So I went in, and that's when people started arriving, and I started seeing what I was seeing. And I found my mother-in-law, and it was just crazy. I saw a lot of missing eyes. I saw one decapitation, missing limbs. Resuscitations, a lot of resuscitations. So there were a lot of people running, they were pushing gurdies, and there was a doctor just doing CPR and trying to resuscitate. And Yeah, and people that had arrived already dead, so they were just covered and they were just taking them to the morgue, and you can't help but wonder, like, they're passing right in front of you. You know, like, it's really sad, like, the last moments, you don't wish it on anyone. I stayed with my mother-in-law until they moved her to the room, and they had scheduled her surgery for the next day. So at 12:30, I went home. When I got home, it was time, just me and my wife alone. I'm looking in the mirror and there's a blank face. It's like my soul was ripped out of me, and my wife's face was the same. And I realized that that's the face of every single Lebanese person that has been affected directly or indirectly by the blast. You walk in the streets, you're conducting business, you're doing whatever you need to do because life has to move on. And I had to go back to work. You just see blank faces, blank faces, blank faces, blank faces. They conduct business, they would talk to you, but there's a blank face. It's like the soul was ripped out of every single person. And it's still evident till this day. You can still see it in people. So I sat down with my wife in bed and we're just staring at each other. And we both went through survivor's guilt, I would say. Things start rushing in your head and you start thinking, what if I was doing this? What if we went down? What if we were in the streets protesting more? What if would have they moved? Would have they done more? And then you're like, you know what? You can't subject yourself to something like that. But it's the demons at night. It's the demons at night. When someone's alone, that's when you start facing those demons and you start thinking about it more and more. So my brother had recently moved to Lebanon temporarily to fix his papers to go back to Canada. And coming from Canada, from Trudeau land, where it's all maple syrup and hockey and bacon, he came to lockdowns and COVID and lack of opportunities and depression. Everyone's depressed. Everyone has the wind sucked out of them. And my brother's the type where he brings life to wherever he goes, and he's like, what's going on? Why is it like this? And he's trying to find answers. He came and he rented a room from his friend. So he was rooming with a friend in Ashrafiyya, and he was at home during the blast. So he was on the balcony and when it happened, and basically he got injured. Few cuts, and there was a piece of glass that was stuck in his foot. He didn't know that there was a piece of glass. And my brother has diabetes, so it wasn't healing properly. And then eventually the piece of glass came out. He had moved to Zahle with that friend until the house is fixed and everything, and he passed away in Zahle due to a heart attack. And basically the doctor was telling us that he had an injury in his foot and he has diabetes, so blood poisoning that might have led to that spike in the blood sugar level. I don't know. It broke him. The blast broke him. It was a month later that it happened, a month and 4 days since August 4th. I just know that I shouldn't have buried my brother. His kids should have buried him. It was too soon, 39. Like, it's just the prime of his life, you know. It's sad, it's sad. And he was loved. He was very loved. Yeah, he was the underground celebrity in Marem Khayel. Shock. I have probably 150 tied knots in my body that need that need loosening up, but soon, I'm sure things will calm down. I'm sure things will set down a bit, but it was just a shock after a shock after a shock after a shock, and it's a lot to handle to any human being. And I'm sure every single person in Lebanon has probably, if not the same story, something similar to what I went through.